Okay, part two of the questions and answers with Tony Calvin. This is from Colin Horde. What does Tony think makes racing less attractive as a betting medium, and what needs to change to attract new bettors?
That's a $64,000 question. Colin, obviously ex-chair of the HBF, very clever guy. I don't know. When you've done all these interviews, you must have come across very, very clever people in the betting industry who've tried to model horse racing to make it profitable and be able to trade it. I remember very clever guy. I think it was a guy called Jasper White set up Bet Mustard. I'm not sure if you interviewed anybody from there.
I was going to interview Jasper, but it didn't happen in the end for some reason.
But he's incredibly clever guy. They set up obviously just outside Hammersmith, and I went down there a couple of times to see how they did. And they could model anything on golf. They could model anything on any other sport. They tried for about the best part of a year to actually get a model where they could available to price up and market horse racing in quite a strident fashion, but they just couldn't do it, so they just stopped. That probably tells your story. Horse racing is very, very hard for a number of reasons. It's probably because the inside information and the non-trier aspect and waiting for another day element is so hard to gauge. So I'll be honest there, Colin. I don't know. We've all thought about this, and it's a challenge, and it's a challenge that nobody's come up with an answer to yet.
Yeah, which is probably one of those bookmakers, isn't it?
Yep.
This is from Andy Patey. What are Tony's thoughts on the lack of betting coverage on the racing channels, along with the lack of objectivity on the racing channels?
Not sure what he means about lack of objectivity, but it's a subject we didn't touch upon in the interviews. One of the things I probably should have done. There might be a few more that is in the questions. I just find it mystifying. Maybe like you, I watch ITV racing, and they have got a lot better. And I just find it ridiculous. I mean, I didn't watch it live, but I went back and watched the opening show on Saturday because I wanted to see what they did about market racing going and things like that. And there was literally no coverage of that day's racing. It was all kind of like previews of the King George reviews. I just find if people are tuning in at 9:30 on ITV on a Saturday morning, they're racing lovers. We know 95%, are there to watch the racing, to have a bet. And I honestly find it staggering. As I said in the piece that we did a month or so ago, I actually canvassed 12 big, quite well-known people from Twitter about how ITV could improve. I fed that into Richard Hoyle's, and they have improved. When Richard's on, he's normally very good. And Ed Chamberlain really chimes in as well now, but obviously that's not their main job. So the lack of a dedicated betting person when they throw any number of things. I mean, they have kind of like, Adele Mulrennan largely to do the paddock, and they even chuck in Ken Pitterson as well. I mean, if you can chuck in Ken Pitterson on top of Adele Mulrennan, then why wouldn't you have a dedicated betting person who would do that? I mean, I was looking one of the reasons why I looked at the opening show on record on Saturday is to see what they made of El Arty, one of the most stunning drifts in recent years. 4-6, well, it even hit 9-2 on Betfair 2 minutes beforehand. And there was literally just a one-line mention. No, I find it absolutely stunning. And the same goes, I don't watch a lot of, midweek racing. So the same probably goes for racing TV and the Sky Sports racing as well. I mean, like you, I just look at some of the TV coverage and think, what do they think people are tuning in for? It's mystifying.
Yeah, the betting, so important. Everybody's interested in the betting, whether people like it or not. Anyway, it's not about my opinion, it's about yours here. So next up, at Freddie66. If Tony isn't comfortable betting short price horses, how come he's able to trade in running rugby so profitably? Surely that requires being able to know the tangible difference between a 2-1 and a 6-4 shot.
Yeah, I think the answer is I spoke a lot about instinct in when I was talking about my rugby betting when we did the interview, and I think a gut feel, an immediate impression about whether a price is wrong or right in rugby. I just seem to have that knack. I probably don't have it now because I don't trade as much as I did do then, but I knew so much about the team, so much about the players. I looked into the conditions pre-match. I went in there completely set about how I was going to approach something, but I did adapt to the way that the match was unfolding. But so in short, I would have complete knowledge of both teams and everything about that rugby match. So and it all just fell into place after that. And obviously, if you're betting in a free kind of result scenario, it's much easier to differentiate between a 2-1 and a 6-4 and a 6-4 and an evens as it is in a 20-runner field of racing where you don't know a lot about the runner's intentions, etc. So I would say one word answer to that: instinct.
Okay, right. This is at the Bullet 59. Right. He says, who's the better and bigger drinker, TC or Keels? My tissue is Keels bottle on, TC up the arm 1108. I put that bit in just to flourish it up a bit. Draw, handful and half.
He's totally fucked that up. The thing about Keely is he doesn't drink at home. So when he goes out, he's just kind of. You think about he'll have about 4 or 5. We went out on Saturday actually. He had quite a big session because my son turned out with a few of his mates unexpectedly. He'll have about 4 or 5, and he'll just kind of like carry on, but it'll hit a plateau. But I'll tend to accelerate when I have a drink, and I do drink at home. I love wine. Gone off gin a little bit recently. I don't know. I might be pregnant, I suppose. Yeah, I like. If I'm sitting at home, I'd quite happily have a bottle or so of wine while watching TV or cooking or stuff like that. The doctor says not to, but that's the reality. But I won't do it every day, nearly every day. But yeah, I like alcohol. Keely doesn't, so it is literally no offers. Mate.
Okay, right. This is at David Johnson T.
I think that might be David Johnson TF. I think. Oh, I'm guessing.
Okay, maybe I've missed off the F at the end. Good listen on the pod. Right, assuming it's a previous interview. Prices and intuition were a constant theme. Does Tony price up a race from scratch still and bet against the tissue, or would he be more likely to study a race, then check available prices and intuitively tip what he expected to be shorter?
Be honest with you, probably the latter. But I do have, and it's the reason is the latter is because I tend to do ITV races, and there's over 100 days of ITV racing. That's mad, but so when you are doing ITV races, so for the weekend or big meetings, they have been already priced up at the anti-post stage, so you have a rough idea. So I'm not pricing up at 850 at Chelmsford tonight. So I would have a very rough idea how the prices are going to filter through. So it will be a bit disingenuous to me to say, oh, I price it all up, etc., because that's already been done at the anti-post stage. But if I'm coming to a race that hasn't been priced up, I would have a very firm idea in my mind about how they're going to price up. But yeah, it's almost exclusively the latter for the reasons I've just given, because they've already been priced up at the 5-day stage or even further along the line.
Okay, right. So this is from at Spurs Races Harry. Tony often says in his columns and pods that he doesn't worry about the jockey who is riding the horse. Does he really believe that?
Yes. Yeah. The like I say, I've obviously some jockeys are better than are better than others, and I probably wouldn't touch some jockeys because I don't trust them. But yeah, as a general rule, I don't care. I mean, obviously everyone will like Ryan Moore on their horse, but Biggles on Saturday. We're doing this on Wednesday before the King George. Biggles on Saturday, for example, got a great chance. Ryan Moore booked, rode it last time, 11-2. Ryan Moore wasn't on it. If that was Adam Carragher claiming a free, don't know where I pulled that one out from. Be about 8-10-1, wouldn't it? Well, it will be a couple of points bigger. So what I'm trying to say is, we'd all like a Ryan Moore, but you have to pay for it in the price.
Okay.
I'd rather have the price and not have a jockey on it.
Okay. Right. Uh, at quarter first four, why would you bother betting a 40 to 1 shot with your laid to lose £200 bookmaker agreement?
Yeah.
Surely your hourly wage is higher than that.
The issue there is obviously I would, if I thought the 40 was a rick and I thought it should be 12 and 16s, I'm gonna take whatever I can get on it. Now, whether that would be £12.50, yeah, that's right, it falls, yeah. Whether it be £12.50 each way, fiver each way, whatever, that's fine. But as I also accepted that, and I probably shouldn't say this in the light of that Bet365 horror case recently. As a general rule, people do ask other people to place bets for them. I'm not saying it's right, not saying it's legal. But what I'm saying is it'd be unrealistic to suggest that anybody with restricted accounts don't try to get on at that price in other places.
Okay. Right. This is from Chris Poole.
Yeah.
Not about after timing, but he'd like to know what 5 racing journals or pundits with big tone, in inverted commas, have around his table at the Toby Carvery.
People use big as some kind of insult, don't they? Yeah. Whenever people have when people call me big tone on Twitter or something like that, they think they're having a pop, but I don't care. Chris Paul used to be a bit of a fatty actually, but he's one of these people who now he's lost a bit of weight, tends to try and give it out on the old scales front. It doesn't matter what 5 people from the press room I would invite, none of them will turn up. I wouldn't be particularly liked. Yeah. They might have a grudging private respect, but they'd never show that. And they would never show up. So
Actually, he says pundits or racing journals. They don't have to actually be press room
I
officials.
tell you what, I only met him for, and I know he's a big mate of yours. I had a good chat with him at that Smash betting launch. Is Andrew Mount as nice a bloke as he came across there?
Yes.
Yeah, he'd be one of them. He'd be one of them. But yeah, 5. I didn't look at these before. Really? No. Anyway, I'd invite. No.
Right. Okay. We'll move swiftly on. At Jerv is, I don't know how to pronounce that. Hi Tony. Do you do any spread betting? And if so, what markets do you find profitable, please?
No, don't do spread betting. I had a horrendous experience when I used to do the spread betting column at the Racing Post. I tipped something on the Hong Kong Sevens. Lost about 1,000 times my stake. No, I have never done it in horse racing. I know a lot of people love it, distances and stuff like that. And you hear some great stories. You hear some great stories in yesteryear, the early 90s, when Sporting Index were in their zenith, about when a jockey on a heavy odds on shot, if he's going to win long, he'll come out of his whip in the left hand. If he's going to really ease it up, he'll be in his right hand. You hear stories like that and things like that. But no, I think spread betting might have had its day, but no, I don't use it.